Greetings from the Eccentric Man. It's been a little while, but good to be back, and hopefully a little bit of new content coming a little bit more regularly, as they say. And what are we going to start with is 5 for Victory. Let's have a look. The Eccentric Man YouTube channel is kindly sponsored by Lost Art Games in Stevenage. You can find them online and at 29 Marketplace Stevenage. Pop in and say hello. New out from Studio Tomahawks, the French company, is 5 for Victory. Us Brits get it confused with V for Victory, but why 5? Because you need 5 on a dice to be successful. It's a World War II skirmish game. How many figures do you need? Well, not very many. Have a little look at the army setups. But you're only looking at a platoon level game. So you're more or less starting with a HQ, 2 sections, and some supports. And that's your starter. So it's not too bad. You will, of course, require the rulebook. Word of warning, it was written in French. It's been translated to English. And there are some little errors in it. We're looking forward to the FAQ, but you can join their Discord channel and you will get the rulings from France that give you an update as to the changes. At the moment, it's pretty good because the guy who wrote it is quite active within the Discord and giving his information and update. So to play the game, you need the cards, you need some measuring sticks, and you need some dice. The dice you're looking at are D12s, D8s, and D6s. A selection of cards to play. And they are activation cards. You can see the ones at the bottom. They've got fire, they've got move, and they've got rally and withdraw. So each player has 7 of the activation cards, and one that sort of acts as a joker that you can use to get one of your activation cards back. The bonus cards either come from an objective or at the beginning of the turn, depending on the scenario. Those of you who are Studio and Tomahawk devotees will see it's a very similar game system to the Congo, with your cards for activating your units. Initiative varies during the game turn. The game will have 7 phases because those are the number of activation cards you've got. You run through the 7 and then a new turn starts. Initiative can pass between each players. If you play the same card and it's a draw, then you either keep your initiative and it then goes, you go first, and then the initiative changes to the other player. Or you give the other player the opportunity to go first, and you keep the initiative for the next turn. So it's you got to think, and with the card system that you play, you do have to think about every turn, every card you're going to play. What are you going to do with your troops? How are they going to move? How are they going to support each other? And how is it going to work with the objective that you're playing? So I like Congo. I like this game system. So our first game, we decided to do Scenario 1, surprisingly enough. Trying to keep the units and the armies fairly small, we went for First Encounter. We set our table up, ready to play the game. It's a 4x4 setup, and you can use the scenarios. It gives you the basic idea for the setup of the table, where the units are going to come on, how far on they can be. So the rest of it is up to you. Each scenario will have its own objectives, and it will tell you what you need to achieve, and if you're going to get bonus cards, which can be really useful because you can add them to the defense value or you can add them to the attack, so they're very good to use. The rulebook is designed for World War II skirmish late war, so you're probably good to go from around about 1944 onwards. They've got Germans, British, Soviets, and Americans. And you've got the basic units within it. You've got normal infantry, mechanised infantry, paratroopers, recon, I think there's some recon in there, and commandos. So it gives you a selection to play around with. And also you could design your own, because it's a fairly straightforward setup, as you can see in the pages above. You get the army layout for your initial force, so at headquarters, and then 2 sections. Once you have those, and dependent on the scenario, or whatever you and your friend opponent chooses, you have support stars. and you can use those to add in additional troops. And you can see there, you can have another squad, you can have a recon section, you can have vehicles, you can have artillery, so you can add loads of little different bits in for the game that you want to play. Each nationality has a special rule. The Germans have the one for their light machine gun, and it gives them an extra bit of firepower with them. Not too horrendous, but it helps them along. And then you get 2 special rules, a national special rule and a unit special rule, because they vary depending whether they're Fallschirmjägers, they're mechanised infantry, or whatever. It does give a nice little mix to what you can take. That being said, you only get 7 cards for each phase, so you've got to think about what you got, how you want to use them within that. So not everyone is going to activate because of the way the cards are designed. So here we have John's Fallschirmjägers. You can see top left, you've got your commanding officer for the platoon. You've then got a headquarters section, 3 men, and then you've got 2 squads of 2 units. So that is your initial platoon for the game. And then if you were playing a different scenario, you would add in your supports. John added in a couple of reserves, or he may have put in a couple of assault rifles. Me, I went for, as you can see here, the headquarters with the bugler guy at the front and his HQ section, a sniper team, and then 2 sections at the back of each of 2 squads. So that was my setup for the game. An initial deployment setup for our game of V for Victory, or 5 for Victory as the flagsmen would like to call it, as they wrote it. So John's set up, we've got 3 objectives. There's one behind there, and you can't see it, but there is one. There is one in the centre, and one over here. We had a deployment zone where we could stretch across, but it didn't go across all the table. I've set my paratroopers up over here. I've got my one squad to the right, second squad to the left, headquarters behind them, and a sniper over by the building. Zapping round for John, he has got 3 squads, 2 main squads, and his command. Command's in the middle, I would hazard a guess, because there is a rule for targeting commanders to get everyone to move, and there's John's objective. And that's going to be first turn. The turn is set out in 7 phases because you get 7 cards to play for your activation. So we'll see how it runs for our first proper game for John and my second-ish game. Up into the first sort of turns, and as you can see here, we've got the British paratroopers advancing. You can see the little green and the red dots and the cards that we're using. The green dot indicates the unit has taken an activation. A unit is allowed 2 activations per turn, but you get 7 cards, 7 phases, for which you can then use that to activate each unit. But depending on the cards, you play them on the unit, you can play them on the squad, or if you've got the officer, he can divide them around different squads within range. Here you can see some sneaky Fallschirmjägers hiding behind a hedge, waiting to jump out to advance up to the barn. Movement is using the rulers, and normal movement is an S, and run is 2S. In 5 for Victory, everything is measured from the squad leader. That's shooting, that's moving, morale, and playing cards. For shooting, you need to be able to spot. Once you've been able to spot a unit, you can then see whether you can fire at them. Spotting works in a really nice way, and it's taken from the old Muskets and Tomahawks game that they first produced. And that gives you a maximum distance that you can see. And then depending on the terrain, whether it's a hedge, whether it's a wall, whether it's a wood, or bad weather, it brings the distance down in bands for you to be able to see. So you have to work out, can you spot this unit? If not, you can't fire. However, on the upside, if a unit fires, then that moves the visibility table the other way, making it easier for that unit to spot. And certainly if it's an armoured vehicle, that also makes it easier to spot. But if you're in the vehicle and you're closed down, that makes it more difficult to spot. So it's very logical with how it works, but it does add an interesting little feature into the game, I feel. Once you've spotted, you can shoot. And each weapon has a firepower. So, for example, your rifle has a D6. The German LMG has 2D6 and 2D8. A medium machine gun will have 4 D8s. So, sometimes those dices will be affected positively. They may go up to a D. So, if we take a D8, it may go up to a D12. Or, if there's things in the way of the shooting, like a wall, or the unit goes down, which is called hitting the dirt, then you burn dice, which means you have a D8 and it might go down to a D6. So it affects the way, and if you've got to remember, each successful roll needs to be a 5. So it's easier to get a 5 on a D12, apparently, not with my dice rolling all the time. So that's how it works. You're using the dice, and that's the value. Again, you do get a cover save, but not a cover save, a defense roll. And then again, that is for regular troops, it'll be a D8. But then that might be affected by where that unit is. So if you're running in the open, it goes from a D8 to a D6. If you're in entrenchment, it goes up to a D12. So it varies nicely on the situation of the troop. But remember, it's always a 5 to be successful. So what happens when a unit is hit and takes casualties? Well, if it's hit and all casualties are saved, it gets 1 stress token. If it gets hit and a casualty is caused, it will get 2 stress tokens. A unit's morale status goes from normal to shaken to pinned and then panic. It sounds like it could take a long time to get there, but in reality, it can get there very quick. If we look at this photo, you'll see that there are some red dots. Those mean that the unit has activated twice. You can see a red dot with some yellow on it. That means that unit has fired. Well, there is 1 man left. And you can see a little orange picture which says pinned, which it can't do very much until it rallies. So if we look at the cards in the middle there, you can see that there's a 7, and that is the highest initiative value in the deck that you play with. It's got a move and it's got a rally. Now, to play it, you could play it on your commander, and any unit that is within L, he could allocate one of those actions to each unit. So you could use him, or you could apply it to a squad, and if they were both within M of each other, the commanders of each squad, then you could play a move on one and a rally on the other. Or you could just play it on one squad, and that squad could rally and then move. But each time you use one of those actions, that activates a unit, and it would go from a green activation to a red activation and then be deactivated for the rest of the turn. So you've got to consider how you're going to use them and carefully select. How do you win? Well, by achieving the scenario objective, or by your units breaking due to the casualties that they take. So normally with the scenarios, there's 4 turns in the game, and there's going to be a number of objectives that you have to achieve. So it might be that there are locations on the board that you have to get to and hold, or it might be that you have to kill so many units. So it varies. Each scenario is different, and there's about I think 11 scenarios in the book that takes you through different things. So yeah, good little setup within the book there. We enjoyed our first game, and the winner's laurels went to John with his Fallschirmjägers. I did lose a lot of paratroopers in that central area, but hey ho, That is what happens sometimes. So yeah, enjoyed the game for our first taster, and we've played a couple of games now as we've gone over a couple of weeks, and still enjoying it, and looking to play a bigger game in the coming week. And we've got a whole day set aside on the 25th of August to play 5 for Victory at Lost Ark Games on a Sunday. So, would I recommend it? And how does it compare to Bolt Action and Chain of Command? That's the questions that we need to answer. The question then, Bolt Action, Chain of Command, or 5 for Victory? I've got to admit that over the past year I have fallen out of love with Bolt Action. I think perhaps the multi-launchers, the Gurkha spam and the Japanese spearmen, all the things that go in those, and the plethora of different campaign books and theatre books, and everyone I want to get this in and I want to have this, and it just seemed to turn me off of Bolt Action. Have been playing it since 2014, 2015, and I think it's got a bit stale. So whether version 3 will be a rejuvenation for me, I don't know. Chain of Command? Well, Chain of Command I do like, but I find that it takes me a long time to play. And I'm not 100% keen on the activation dice and the ability to get a second turn and then possibly a third turn. And I do know that you can actually change the rules, house rule it, so that that doesn't necessarily always happen. But Chain of Command, if you've got a good length of time to play it, then Chain of Command can be a good game to play. It's certainly, from a historical perspective, a good game, and supported with a lot of pint-sized campaigns and good support from Rich and Nick at Two Fat Lardies. Which brings us to 5 for Victory. Yeah, I will be playing this a lot more, I think. It's back to basics, I think, with the HQ, 2 sections or 2 squads, depending on your nationality, and then the option to put in some supports. And we're not talking over the top supports. With the star system, very much like Chain of Command, with the star system you can devise nice add-ons to the force for the scenario perhaps that you're going to think about playing. And I think it does work well. I like the mechanisms for the cards, and then the differentiation of the D6, the D8, the D12. I think that's a nice way of doing it. Making it a very simple 5 for success. If you get a 5, you're good. And if it's under, you fail. And I think that's a good one. You don't have to remember very many things for the dice to tell you what's gone wrong or what's happened for your benefits. So 5 for Victory, I think, yeah, it fills a space, I think, between Bolt Action and Chain of Command. My one, perhaps not a concern, but an area where I'm unsure on, is the ability to play a bigger game with 5 for Victory. For the rulebook and the games that they're playing in there, it's 4x4 and 4 turns, and you're both playing, there's 2 of you playing. You've only got 7 cards each. So if you're thinking about upscaling to a bigger scenario with more points, I'm not quite sure how that will pan out. Whether you have to use 2 decks each, so a turn would then become perhaps 14 cards rather than 7. I don't know. We haven't really thought about how we would go about this. But for the moment, we're absolutely fine with the 4x4, 4 turns at the moment, and working through our star system. We're going to go for a 12-star game very shortly. But again, with the cost of some of the supports, a Sherman tank, which I took in a recent game, is six stars. So in that scenario, it was a 6-star scenario, and all I had for my army was HQ, the HQ section, 2 rifle sections of 2 units, and a Sherman. But the game went okay. So yeah, we're going to have to look at how we might be able to upscale if we wanted to do a multiplayer game. And that's where Bolt Action scores, I think. If you want to do a multiplayer game, Bolt Action certainly is a good game for that, because it's quite fluid in its play, and you can make it pop along quite quickly. But with 5 for Victory, I'm not quite sure how the card system would work. Definitely a thumbs up for me, then 5 for Victory, and going forward we'll get a few more games in, and I hope that we'll be able to get a full battle report or 2 under our belts and up on the channel. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification button. Any questions, any thoughts that you have on the rules, put them down below, and until the next time, take care.